Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Garcia, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
All right, we're excited to have Scott Joseph on our show. We're back here at the Blend Bar in the Woodlands, Texas. If you guys are ever here, if you want great food, cigars, and great drinks, especially bourbon, this is the place to come. One of the top cigar bars in the nation, the Blend in the Woodlands. Scott, thank you for being with us.
I want to thank you. This is an honor. It's a privilege. Absolutely love it. I was envious with your episode with Sandy Cerami.
Well, Sandy said you just wanted to come to try to up him.
Well, that's going to happen.
You guys have a wide lens for the head.
But when I saw where you guys shot, I was like, oh, man, I got to get on there. So I thank you, bro. Seriously.
I wish I could do all my podcasts here. This place is absolutely beautiful. They're always kind to open it up and let us shoot here. So what's your favorite car?
So I've got the Continental GT Speed, the 12. So that's my car.
What color?
I don't know the technical, but it's one of those, it's that newer gray and then gets in the sunlight and it kind of changes a little bit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Kind of has that camouflage.
Yeah.
Of all the places you've traveled, what is your favorite?
Italy, by far. It's not even close.
Italy is so popular.
Yeah.
I think, too. I think my favorite place is Venice. I've said that before.
Yeah.
But Italy is definitely, it's such a great place. Where in Italy necessarily?
So I've only been to the south. So Italy will be every 2 years for us. And then, I've got a new baby. So once we get to an age where she can travel safely with us, possibly every year. So not this summer, next summer, we're going to go for a month and a half.
I got to tell you, for a young fellow like you, it's congratulations on the baby.
Yeah, thank you. So all right, what kind of words are we allowed to say on this?
You can say whatever you want.
All right. I had a foot out the door. All right. I'm already thinking, all right, as soon as Sophia gets to high school, Trish and I, we're moving to Miami. We've already got our place picked out, the whole thing. She's late a day, and I said, first off, I told her when it happened, you're pregnant. And she goes, no, I'm not. And I said, yeah. And so now she's late a day. And I say, go get the test. I said, I'm not waiting 10 days and going through this for 10 days. So she gets the test. We're sitting on the couch. Simultaneously, no joke, we look down at the exact same way we go, mother. All right, that's exactly right. Now, looking back, we feel horrible that we said that because it's been the absolute best.
It's the shock factor.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because our life was planned.
Like,
right?
you're probably thinking, oh, I did it.
No. I was thinking, oh, I did it. But it's been the best blessing. And so I look back on that day, I feel horrible saying that, but the universe, God works in mysterious ways. It's been, I would have never thought that's what I've wanted, but it clearly was.
What's your favorite food?
Well, I'm Lebanese, so I go kibbe and the grape leaves and the cabbage rolls.
Do you really? Do you stick to your home?
If I had one last meal,
meals?
If I had a last meal, I'm going with all my favorite Lebanese.
No kidding.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because you grew up with that food? Is that why? Is it
not like all the time, special occasions.
But I'm Cuban, and I grew up, all we ate was Cuban food, but I love Tex-Mex. Like, my last meal would be Tex-Mex, fajitas.
You probably got the Cuban food more than I got the Lebanese. So I was getting Lebanese on Christmas, on a little bit of it here for we have traditional Thanksgiving, but every now and then we have a little bit of it. And then,
so you weren't every night?
Oh, no.
Like, I was Cuban every night. Every night we had rice and beans and a meat.
Yeah.
Rice and beans and a meat.
And see, and I could do Cuban all the time. I would love Cuban food. I love food.
But Lebanese is the...
If I had one meal, that's what I'm doing. However, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you my eating in Italy. All right? This was every day. So we were over there 12 days. And I tend not to eat before noon. I usually eat in like 12 to 8 range, right? And so we get up there, and of course the breakfast, it's not like American, it's all pastries, which is now all these carbs, right? And you do your coffee and you do your pastries.
It's good food, man.
Oh, it's delicious. So then we get to lunch. I wouldn't do much in between that and lunch. And I'd get to lunch. I'd eat a pasta. You had to eat a pasta over there, right? You eat a pasta. If I piled up all the mozzarella that we ate that week, it would be literally stacked like this. Ate that every lunch and every dinner. We ate pasta, everything. We'd start doing the spritzes, all right?
Yeah,
all day.
right.
We'd have a gelato in between lunch and dinner. Sometimes there was one day we had 4 meals and it was all pasta. We'd get to dinner, we'd start doing a nice wine, maybe a cocktail, another entree, another pasta dish. We'd split dessert. We'd just start doing the limoncellos after.
Right.
This went on for 12 straight days, never tired of it, and lost 3 pounds.
I was going to tell you that when you finish the story, I was going to say every time I go to Europe,
Yeah.
we eat. We're tourists, right? So we're eating all the time.
Yeah.
Drinking wine, not much bourbon over there.
Yeah.
But drinking wine,
Yeah.
limoncello, you name it, dessert, ice cream, whatever.
Living like a
and we
king.
come back and we've lost weight.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's no scientific fact to it, right? 1, we walk like crazy.
Correct.
2, I think the food is different.
It's natural.
There must be something different in that food versus our food.
We blow up our wheat because we think bigger is better here. Their wheat's very thin. It's
So we're in
natural.
Texas. Everything's better, bigger.
So we have a lot of processed stuff and a lot of preservatives in our food. So it's all natural there. And so I went over there thinking, man, I lost weight going in to it because I'm knowing what I'm going to do.
Right.
And so I'm thinking all these carbs I'm going to be eating nonstop. There's no way I'm not. I'm going to blow up like a tick.
It's so funny because that's exactly what I was going to tell you. Same thing. We ate like crazy, came back, we lost weight. It's unbelievable. All right, so tell me this. Tell me the Scott Joseph story. How did you become this guy with the big head?
I don't know if my story is that much different than everybody else's.
Well, where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Cincinnati, actually a very small town outside of Cincinnati. Most people have never heard of Bethel, Ohio. So let's put it this way. I ended up graduating in Louisville my senior year. I got transferred down there the last half of my senior year. My class where I ended up graduating in Louisville, all boys, was larger than the entire high school I came from in Cincinnati. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, by about 25%.
So you couldn't get away with much there.
In the rural part? No.
All right, so you grew up in this little town, Bethel.
Yes.
And what was your first job?
McDonald's. Yeah.
Flipping burgers?
Yep.
How old were you?
I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, what happens next?
I lasted 2 weeks. So the flipping the burgers part was fine. And then they took me out. They took me out in week 2 and started showing me how to clean the restrooms. And
You were like, I'm out.
I said, wait a minute, I don't even clean my own restroom at home. I said, I cleaned at others. And so I was out. And so I ended up working at a car wash.
My first week in college, UPS came and hired
That's
people for
great.
college. At the time, I was 18 years old, $8 an hour. And so a bunch of us took it.
Yeah.
I lasted 2 weeks.
Really?
It was, here's an 18-wheeler, you by yourself unload it. And when you unload it, you got a 15-minute break. Then you come back from the break and there's an empty 18-wheeler and you got to load it and do the Tetris, right? The box thing, and look at the zip code, and they purposely throw wrong zip codes to see if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Blisters in my hands.
Did you quit or did you get fired?
No, I quit.
Yeah.
I quit. I was out.
Yeah.
I was out. I did roofing too, just so you know.
Maybe there's a common thing there with us and other entrepreneurs, right?
Maybe.
That's a sign like we've got to do our own thing.
All right, so you're at McDonald's. They want you to clean the restrooms. You're like, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
What's next?
I got a job at a car wash, and I liked it because you got to upsell, and so in my wild thought, I thought, wow, I'm selling, and so I'm selling, the up.
So you're the guy that when you drive in the car was asking the person which one do you want?
Yeah, and then I'd upsell it,
Okay.
and then they'd bonus us on the upsells.
Okay.
So I'm calling my dad. Yeah, I upsold this, thinking it's a real sales.
How long did you do that for?
That one lasted a while. That one lasted me through my senior year. Then, all right, this is where the real story begins. All right, so at the University of Louisville, going to college, and
So you graduate high school.
Yeah.
You go to college.
I'm in college down at the University of Louisville. Parents live down there. Dad's running Green Tree Toyota for the Jeff Weiler organization out of Cincinnati. So down there and bugging my dad because I'm working at the dealership is a lot tech.
So your dad owned a dealership?
He was the general manager for Mr. Weiler.
Okay, general manager of a dealership.
Yep.
You're going to college and you're working for him at the same time.
Correct.
What were you doing for your dad?
I was a lot tech.
Okay.
Cleaning cars. So ran the range in the lot, cleaning cars. And I would go in on my lunch break and I'd watch all the sales because that was my mission. I knew I was going to. When my dad got the general manager job, when he started selling cars and got the general manager job, prior to that he was selling vacuums at Sears, our lifestyle completely changed
dramatically.
And so that's what I wanted to do. I saw that change and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that.
How old were you when you said I want to do this?
Oh, I was,
18?
Yeah, probably younger, 16, 17.
Okay.
So, I'm watching his success and I'm thinking, wow, this is
It's a long time. You're 69 now, right?
No, I'm a little bit. I'm about 10 years younger than Sandy, so that puts me at 55. But I remember thinking, this is what I want to do. On my lunch breaks, I'd go into the lunchroom and I'd watch, or the training room, and I'd watch sales training. They had prospecting tapes, how to close tapes, the whole way through all the sales, process of selling cars. And I would beg my dad, let me sell, let me sell, let me sell. He wouldn't let me sell. So he goes away on a 20 group. And you don't know this story.
I don't.
So
and that's why you're here, because you want to know the story.
So he goes away on a 20 group out in California. And I'm sitting there and I said, you know what? I'm going to get a job selling cars. Because he didn't graduate college. I'm thinking to myself, I don't need a job. I don't need to graduate college to do what I want to do. And that was to run a dealership. At that point, owning them, all that stuff wasn't it. I just wanted to be a general manager.
Yeah.
And get there as quickly as I could.
Because you saw the change in your dad.
Correct. And I'm competitive. So I'm like, I know if Dad can do it, I can do it better. So I'm watching these tapes. I was the only one. None of the salespeople ever watched them. I was the only one. I had to blow the dust off of them. So while they were out, I called up. I took the easy road.
So your dad's out.
He's out in a 20 group in California. So I call up one of Mr. Weiler's stores in Cincinnati. All my friends lived up there because I used to go to school there. And I knew my dad ran the most profitable store for Mr. Weiler. So I knew I would get a job just because of my name.
Right.
And so I called up there, got an interview, or literally there was a guy, I said, I want to get a job selling cars. Who do I need to talk to? And they said, well, our finance manager is actually going to be the new sales manager at the Chrysler Plymouth store on Beachmont, and let me connect you with him because he's going to be looking for people. So he picks up the phone. How quick can you get up here for an interview? I said, I'll be there in an hour and a half. So I drove up. I interviewed. I got the job on the spot. Back in those days in the late 80s, that's how it worked, right?
Right.
Probably still works in some stores that way. Get the job. I pack up, move to Cincinnati, move in with my aunt, free room and board.
All the time, your dad's not there.
They're not there. They came home, and I was gone. I had dropped out of school that they had already paid for.
Where to go, Scott? That's in Scott tradition.
Yeah. So I got reminded of that throughout life.
College? How long? 2 weeks?
1 year and a half a semester.
Oh, that's pretty good. You know how long I was?
I'm going to say 2 weeks again. That's a trend.
2 weeks. The professor said all this diploma is going to say is that you know how to read and write.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a lot of waste of time.
I just felt like.
And college is good. Don't get me wrong. College is good. It just wasn't for me.
I hated school, and especially in those first 2 years at school in college when you're not studying the stuff that you really want to use later in life. You're not into that your major yet really and stuff. So I dropped out. I'm out. And I was, I knew this call was going to come.
So Dad's out.
Yeah.
You get a job within his dealer group.
Him and Mom were out there.
And you quit college, and they've already paid for it.
Correct.
Good job.
So,
there you go.
so they come out, they come back, and I got a call, and I was expecting a lot of heat. Extremely calm. The complete opposite of what I anticipated, which was nice. So worked there and thought, all right, here I go. And then I had all this training. I had watched all this stuff, right? And got thrown into the mix, and I said, so what do I do? And they said, well, just go wait on someone. They literally got me no training.
Right.
All right? It was all 100% on the job. And so suffered through those first couple weeks before I started to get a little bit of a sense watching people like, what's the process here that needs to happen? But I sold my first car. I'll never forget this. They were talking about the prospecting. What I would do on Sundays, because it was closed up there, I would call everyone selling their car in the classifieds. So I'd go through every classified ad and I'd call them. I'd spend my whole Sunday calling all those ads, asking them, how much they want for their car, and then did they already have another one? All right. So found a guy, was selling his car. He was looking to buy a car. So I told him what I did. I said, do you mind if we come out and look at it? Because I think, went through that spiel. And that's how I sold my first car. It was 100% prospect, not a walk-in.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's funny because successful entrepreneurs, people that have made it in this industry, find creative ways to sell. We interviewed Carlos Hidalgo, who was, I guess, 40 years ago when he started his business, worked a deal out with the service manager that whenever a repair ticket was at a certain amount, to call him, and he would be the shuttle bus. So when he would go pick up people, he would talk about the new car.
Yeah.
And he would split the commission with the service manager.
Yeah.
And so they had this thing going.
Yeah.
And he became an incredible, successful dealer.
Yeah.
Here you are calling the people selling their cars in the classified.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. So that worked out. Sold my first one. And I got my nose bloodied pretty hard in that first year. There were a couple months.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, I guess get hit in the face. This was a lot harder, and I realized, wow, Dad was really good at this. It was a lot harder than I thought. I think it came more naturally to him. Plus, he outworked me. So Dad worked a lot harder than I gave him credit for. And so, when you're 19, you got other interests. You're and you're immature. So there were a couple months where...
I'm just asking for a friend. When does the maturity kick in?
Well, I'm hoping in the next 5 years. So I would say not for a while. I think there's different stages of it. I think with different levels of responsibility, some has to come. But I can tell you the first 10 years, even probably 15 years, once I started my own business, there were things I did that were very immature. My maturity kicked through the roof, but maybe the way I treated some people early on, how I responded to...
Sometimes the maturity comes by hard knocks.
Correct. And so I think different waves, like my work ethic, the maturity of my work ethic, and realizing what my new responsibilities were, that kicked in very early for me, early 20s, once I started my own and had employees. When I eventually went down and sold cars for my dad.
Wait, so go back. Don't skip the story.
All right. So Mr. Weiler had about 20-something rooftops at that time, and there'd be 2 or 3 months a year where I'd make it into that top 5 to 10 throughout the whole organization. I'm good, but because of my lack of maturity and my inconsistent work ethic, or discipline, whatever you want to call it. I'd have a great month, take the next month off. So
celebrate.
Yeah. I have arrived. I quit school for a reason. Now it's time to be a sales manager.
Okay.
So I'm 20 years old, 19, 20 years old.
So you're about a year into this.
I was entitled, and I thought...
But you're a year into the career.
Yes.
And now you want to be a sales manager.
Yeah, because I will say this. Outside of a few people in the organization, my ambition and my focus or dream of where I wanted to go, this was a career for me. This was not me just selling cars to make money. I had a goal.
Right.
I didn't...
It wasn't to get... It was just a Band-Aid to get you somewhere else. This was your career move.
This was my career move. I did not have the discipline or the work ethic to get where I wanted to go at that moment, but I knew my mindset in terms of this is serious for me was there. And I'll never forget this. About 3-4 months in, Mr. Weiler, who I idolized, by the way, Mr. Weiler would send us those, back then it was WWF tickets, front row, as a little kid. I'm going, and this is all because of Mr. Weiler, right? Yeah. And he's sending me everywhere. 7th row tickets to the Reds and just, with my dad, right? So I just think he's the thing. So he calls me in, and I'm thinking, all right, here's my moment. I have arrived. All right. And first question out of his mouth, why'd you drop out of school? And from that moment, I knew this was not the meeting I wanted. so
And the answer was?
Well, I told him, I said, well, I want to be a GM, and I didn't feel it was necessary. And now, here's where this was a shift, all right? And I look back, I didn't realize it at the time, but this was a milestone. It was a mistake on his part. It happened because I felt entitled and immaturity on my part, but it worked out good. And I remember thinking, because at one point, he's going through why that was a mistake, and he says to me, and this is what I remember the most. I remember that first question, and I remember this. I don't remember anything in between. He goes, in 10 years, when I'm looking at you to be a general manager, I'm going to expect someone with a college degree to know this. And he's talking about the yen and all this other shit. And I'm thinking to myself, the yen? All I need to know is how to sell this next test.
No balance sheet.
All right? The yen. But I'm thinking to myself, I didn't drop out of school to wait 10 years. And that was the mistake. And I think about this a lot because how many people are vendors or in the auto space that are not on the retail side, that may have started out on the side, but there was no real career path laid out for them by the dealership or the dealer group. Had he approached that and said, well, here's the path to get to where you want to go. This is what I expect, and this is what will have to happen. Not put a long timeline on it, and just talk about accomplishments and what he wants to see from me, where he's confident and has the trust.
You get from here to here.
Correct.
Then you go from here to here. Here's where you'll end up.
Correct.
Right, I agree.
And so I end up leaving that store because I started struggling after that a little bit, and I went down and took the cheap way out again, went down and sold for my dad, and I used the...
So you left that store. Mm-hmm. Did he fire you, or you left that store?
No, I left it.
Okay,
I transferred
to your dad's store.
So there's an in-between.
Okay.
2 weeks, another 2-weeker. I went to the Chevy store down the street.
We should make shirts up that say 2 weeks.
I went down to the Chevy store down to 2 weeks, and Mr. Weiler said we need to get him back. That was a thing. And so I called my dad, and at this point, Dad knows I'm not going to finish school.
Right.
So I talked him into letting me sell for him, which is what I wanted to do to begin with.
Right.
And I justified it logically, saying the reason I'm struggling is because he's the best one in this organization. That's who I need to be learning from. So went down there. That was this is where I learned how not to treat people.
You think it's very hard working for your dad?
Well, yeah.
Do you have kids that work for you?
Yeah, that didn't last but a year and a half.
I think it is. I mean, sometimes I catch
You've
myself
found a
with
way.
Arnold
Yeah,
Jr.
but you found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Congratulations to that.
Well,
that's
thanks.
not
I
easy.
appreciate it. But you do have to catch yourself.
Yeah, I didn't. So that's where I say I'm still not as mature as I'd like to. I'm much more mature with everyone else. The people closest to me, my family, I make the mistake of thinking I can say whatever I want, and sometimes that emotional part gets the best of me.
Yeah.
And so because it is real personal to me, it's like I take my son, so talented, and by the way, much more advanced and more successful at this age than I was at his age. Well, he's on a better path. He did it the right way. He finished school, so it's not a fair comparison. A couple years into his work career, much more advanced, I should say. I just started at a younger age. So much more talented naturally than me. And I blew him out the door, which was not smart.
No. But I get it. It's hard.
Because I just had high expectations, and I wanted him to maximize
I think
potential.
A father automatically has these extraordinarily high expectations for their kids.
Yeah.
And you also push your kids in a work environment to make sure that everybody else sees that you're not treating them differently and that they have to earn everything.
Correct.
Add that the emotion of family, and you've got a tornado.
Well,
and so you really got to be careful. And again, like I said, that I catch myself sometimes saying, okay, hey, he's my son.
Yeah.
So you're working for your dad.
Yeah.
You come back. So we're talking about the same situation now, right?
Oh,
so now dad and son, how did that go?
I'll give you a couple of stories in between. It ended up where my sales manager was a woman. She was very talented, great with me. Said, hey, in the future, we're going to go to another office and work your deals. So because my dad was always at the desk.
Right.
As a general manager, he loved it, and so I'm in there. So I'd be selling someone, open floor. So my desk is just floating out there in the showroom. I'd be selling somebody, and Dad, I could see him behind my client, my customer. All right, and I'd say something, and literally I'd see this, and I'm like, what did I say wrong? All right, and so there was those moments. There were moments when,
looking back at it now, do you think it wasn't ill-willed?
Oh no,
It was he wanted you to be
is good,
almost perfect,
Yes.
the best there was.
Correct. And I mean, I'd bring deals in if it wasn't signed or a stupid offer, because we got to start our own deals at that store. You take my buyer's order. I mean, it's open window. I'm like, crumple my buyer's order up and throw it at me. I had to iron it out on the desk. It's because I had to take it back out there to the customer. All right. And so I had those moments. And so I could take it, right? Because I grew up in sports, and your coaches are hard on you.
Yeah.
And I could take that, and I never held a grudge to that. It didn't bother me. But you know what it taught me? It taught me all the wrong things, because when you're running a company and you have employees, not that I did that, but I did things that I'm not proud of, right? And not everybody can handle that, especially when they don't know you as well as a child and a father or, parent. So that was the immature stage of,
How
definitely
long did
mature.
you last
but
with your dad?
a couple of years, but that not because I wanted to leave. I started J&L at 22.
So your dad is a general manager, not a partner necessarily, right? Was
No,
he a partner?
general
Just
manager. Yep.
You worked for him for 2 years.
Yep.
Have all this experience with him as a father and as a boss.
Yep. I learned a ton.
You leave the dealership business and you start J&L.
Correct.
Okay. What is J&L?
So back then it was a direct mail company. We did high impact sale events, mainly all for car dealerships. Today we've pivoted full on all paid media and digital marketing. So, and obviously auto is a large percentage of our client base, but we'll do any B2C.
So you do B2C, B to consumer?
We sell to businesses that are going
sell to
B2C.
consumer,
Right.
What percentage is automotive?
I'd say 65%.
So you go off and start J&L. There's no, you just started it from scratch, right? You didn't buy it.
100%. I started with $12,000.
Okay. So tell me, how was week one?
Week one was just like it was in week one of selling cars. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Because I started with a friend. That's the L.
What gave you the idea to start J&L?
The L. My friend, Pat Luck, guy I went to high school with, while I was selling cars, he was selling these promotions, these campaigns to dealers. And he sold us one. And we sold a hell of a lot of cars in one day. And I was like, gosh, this is awesome. And he goes, everyone's buying this because, every dealer wants more traffic, quality traffic, and they want to sell more cars. And so he talked me in. We could do this, and this is how we'd have to do it. It's simple. So I said, all right, I'm in. Let's do it. And that was in 1991,
So
January of
You
91.
got to get a warehouse? You buy a printing press? What do you do?
No. I subbed all that out. We subbed everything
So
out.
it's just you and a desk and L?
That's it. He
You
had a
and Ellen
desk, I
did-
had a desk. And then I stole my dad's receptionist and
That's good.
and had her as my
Keep
office.
poking at him.
Well, I told him I was going to do it, and he told me, you'll be back here in 3 months. So
Okay.
there's a competitiveness with
So
me
there's
and
a
Dad.
challenge.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't going to happen. And so, but he was very supportive. He didn't want me to do it out of not wanting me to fail. He wanted the best for me, and probably thought I didn't have the consistent work ethic needed to do it. But when it's yours, there's a different thing that happens to you, right?
What's your skin?
That's
it's
exactly
your
right.
$12,000.
And now he's also made it look, and now there's an ego thing, right? There's a pride thing. And so eventually you get through, and by the way, that was started during the Gulf War. So we had to hear all those bullshit excuses. Well, I'm not going to do anything while the war's starting, which was all just, I don't trust that you can do this. You're 22 years old, you're a brand new company, and I don't want to tell you your pitch
sold
sucked.
cars for 3 years, and now all of a
I
sudden.
don't want to tell you your pitch stinks. So figured out, and Dad actually he would run, which kept the cash flow coming. All right, so he was supporting me in that
So was your
sense.
dad your first customer?
Oh yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yes, and he ran every month, so that kept cash flow coming in. L dropped out, in first 2 months because it was tough. And he had more responsibilities. I'm living at home. It's very easy if people are listening that want to be entrepreneurs. To me, it was easier to do it young, with no responsibilities and no real bills.
Right. You didn't have a mortgage, kids, college.
I have a tremendous
Dance
amount of
lessons.
respect for people that have all that on their plate and make that decision to take that leap, because that's not an easy decision. My decision, I thought I was a risk taker. There was no risk. I look back now and I'm like, you didn't take any risk.
Well, but I think that a young kid with $12,000, all he had, is a risk. I know that you didn't have a wife and children that you put at risk.
Right.
But to a certain point, even at living at home, you took everything you had.
Yeah.
Yes, you had a home and you had a hot meal.
Yeah.
But you took everything you had at the moment and said, I'm gonna bet it on this.
Well, this will come back towards the end of this journey. Who I thought I was versus who I became, and then still thought I was, which I was not. So, when I first started.
That sounds so Scott Joseph.
Well, I do a lot of I joke around a lot, but
I mean, all of us were trying to figure you out when you came back from Costa Rica.
yeah.
We're all sitting there going like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, that made my current venture very clear for me. But prior to that, I do a lot of thinking. Like,
Soul searching.
yeah, I do. And I remember, when I started J&L, I just wanted to sell 10 deals a month because I knew I could make, if I did 10 deals a month,
You can make X.
yeah. And I was just looking to make 6 figures. And literally,
But then you make the 6 figures and you go,
well, then I hired people that were also doing it. My brother, right out of school, he was selling deals while he was a senior in high school, or college, I mean.
okay, don't skip it though. So you started with L.
Yeah.
2 months in, L leaves. Your dad gives you the first opportunity. How long
Great.
was it before you became really profitable?
So, started making money in 4 months. So, but here's what happened. My dad helped me again. He had a 20 group member and referred me in, and the guy bought the sale. So at all this time, I'm getting rejected, right? No. But I'm following up. And so I get in with Jack Walker, Pontiac Toyota. One of our Me Plus Ultra members is actually one of the sales managers there, Jamie Powers. So you'll meet him soon. They get a deal, and it's the Pontiac Toyota store. I go up, and at that time, I'm working every event too. So I'm working 7 days a week. I literally drove, 3 feet of snow walking to school Storey. I drove 55,000 miles a year.
Barefoot backwards.
Whole thing. I mean, I was 7 days a week for 2 straight years. But I worked that event, and in one day we delivered 64 cars. So, not knowing as many good selling techniques and skills as I do say now, I called everybody that said no, and all of a sudden I lined up 5 deals like that, right? And from there, they'd have success. I would get more referrals, obviously, and it just kept building. And so,
When did you start J&L?
in January of '91,
Okay.
I was 22 years old. Skip forward a few years, we're successful.
Who was your first employee?
It would have been the receptionist I stole from my dad.
Who was your second employee?
You know what? There were a couple people, some other friends that I had brought in that lasted a little bit. And I don't know what I'm doing managing people. I just know, like, here's how I sell, here's my script. Let's learn this, right? And just do that. And there were some moderate success there. And back then, it was still risk-free because it was all 1099s. I didn't have but my one employee, so I had no salaries.
Yeah.
But I gave them
Everybody earned it.
I gave them a very aggressive commission structure. I mean, it was 50-50. And so there was a lot of upside. I could get people eventually when we became more successful, and I still had that model. I was able to pull people right out of college and pay them no salary, no benefits. Talk them into becoming 1099s, because I told them within a year, you're going to be making more than all these other college graduates do in 5 or 6 years. I said, and by the time that hits, you're going to be so far past them. And it happened. I mean, I had people that were making 6 figures inside of 6 months, 7 months, right out of school. And so that's how the momentum just kept going. And then along the way, you start learning, wow, I got this one person in operations working until 2 or 3 in the morning to make sure all this stuff gets done on time and accurately. I probably need to learn a little bit about process improvement, and becoming more efficient. Things. So you start learning the business side. That was my thing. People said, you don't know anything about running a business. I said, no, but I know how to sell. I said, I can learn the other stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So I focused on selling, taking care of the clients.
And I know that for a sales guy, that may sound, people may go, oh, you sales guys. If you can sell and close a deal, I think that's the hardest thing to teach.
Correct.
If it may be not even teachable, right? I think it's a skill. It's a God-given skill. People just know how to sell and talk.
Yep.
The rest can be learned.
Correct.
The operational side can be learned.
Correct.
There may be some trial and error.
That's
there
right.
may be some bloody noses. There must be some heartaches that you learned the hard knocks way because you didn't know, and maybe you didn't have a mentor, but you can figure it out.
That's right.
Easy way, hard way, but you can get there.
Yeah.
We're selling, being able to build relationships with people and sell. That is almost, I think, a God-given thing.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able, when you get hit in the mouth and fall,
Get up.
rejection, it takes a certain person to
smiling
be
at the
able to
next
not
one.
let that bother them.
That's right. That's right.
So,
What's wrong with this?
well, I'm not good at that.
Really?
Listen, it takes a lot for me. I have to really get out of so I love the psychology of sales. I feel like I really understand it well, and I can teach it, and I can do it, but it's not comfortable for me.
Because you get told no?
Well, we'll get into that. That's an ego play there, because then you don't want to, sometimes you don't want to put yourself out there because you think there's this reputation about yourself. And so there's all kinds of dynamics that go through this, right?
I tell my sales guys all the time, the number one answer a salesperson can get is what?
The number one
Answer.
answer?
Yes.
Yes, no.
No, yes.
Oh, that's
the number one answer that a salesperson can get
not
from
the most common.
No.
Okay, all right.
The best
Yeah.
answer that a salesman can get from a potential
Yes,
customer is yes.
yes,
The second best is no.
that's right.
Because now we know where we stand.
That's right.
That doesn't mean I'm going away.
That's right.
But now I know where we stand, and now I got to overcome whatever objections you have.
Yeah.
What I don't like is, yeah, maybe. Call me next week.
I tell people that.
Maybe. Let me see. Could be. Yeah. You know what? Let me talk to my boss. I got to talk to the shop foreman. No.
I'm laughing because I look at how I handle that type of scenario now versus in the beginning, the sale was everything. Oh no, I don't want to hear a no. I got to make sure I do everything possible to get this yes. And I'll get on a sales call now with what I'm doing and I'll get people that say, well, let me think about it. And I literally tell them this, and I have no shame in it because it doesn't bother. I'm not.
Yeah.
There's no fear anymore to it. I said, listen, this call isn't about that. This call is a yes or a no. And I said, I know how this is going to sound.
See what I mean?
This is a yes or a no
Right.
discussion. I said, because for what this investment is, I can tell you right now, for that amount of money a year, I'm not following up.
That's right.
So
We would follow up,
we're
but I
go-
get what you're saying.
I could do a quick yes. I could do a quick no.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any slow maybes. So
Yeah, another thing I tell so you got to have. I didn't know you didn't kind of have that pride.
I don't.
necessarily when
There's.
say no.
I don't like being rejected. I don't. It's not the rejection.
But you've obviously overcome it because you're very successful. People are going to say no to you, Scott. People are going to say no. Some people are not going to like you. I know the majority like you, but there are a few out there that'll go, man, I don't like that guy.
So that's what salespeople tell me. So when how when you're talking to a salesperson and you're telling them all the right moves, and you can just tell by their questions or their way they come back to you is you can just tell they're not buying in, and they're not going to have the same conviction delivering it as you
Yeah.
do, right? And I try to tell salespeople, no one's going to kill you. The worst thing that happens is the no. And to your point, it's great because then you can ask
Then
why.
you know where you're at. Then you know where you're at.
Exactly.
Right? You know where you stand. It's not
That's
that you're
right.
going away.
That's right.
It's that, okay, well, now I know that I'm here,
Yeah.
and I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Right?
Along this path, we had an opportunity. We're selling individual dealers. This is about 6-7 years in. We had an opportunity to take it up a notch to a tier 3 level. So some of the districts for, I think it was Toyota and Nissan at the time, were looking at us to come in and do for us, very large campaigns. And we didn't get those jobs. And I remember asking afterwards, why, can you tell me why to help us, right? And one of the feedback, some of the consistent, we didn't think you were large enough to handle it. And I knew that it wasn't that. I'd had enough training to understand that I didn't offer enough I did not present it to where it was valuable enough for them. I wasn't going to buy into all this other bullshit, right?
It's all in the presentation.
Correct. And so I thought, we don't know how to sell well enough against these big boys. I said, so we went into a lot of, I went into so much Anthony Robbins sales training, specific sales, not his life, we did his life mastery too.
Yeah.
But this was power of persuasion stuff to the point I bought the rights to present it myself. I made our team go through that training once a month for 2 straight years. This was from Thursday at 9 a.m. We'd end at midnight, and I did it all the way from Sunday to midnight. 2 straight years, once a month. I'd have people traveling, and we did that. Same stories, same role plays, same analogies, all of it. To the point after 2 years, they started, I can't listen to another helicopter story, Scott. I can't listen to another mansion on the coast. Chasing dolphins in my helicopter. I can't listen to it anymore.
But in fairness, some of that basic stuff is true.
Well, we got to the point where we didn't have to think about it. It was subconscious. It was like breathing.
Correct. It should be second nature.
Correct.
We teach that in ours too.
Correct.
You have to know the stuff where it's second nature.
That's right.
You just talk about it.
I don't think people understand how much practice and preparation has to go in to get to that level.
Absolutely.
It's not just going to be from experience only.
No.
So
it's application.
That's right.
And it takes years.
That's right.
And you just got to stick it. You got to stick with something long enough where you master it so that when you go out, your confidence and you knowing what you do completely and fully, the other person's like, I'm in, man.
Yeah.
Because you know this better than me inside out.
So I tell people that I got lucky, and I know the hard work creates the luck. But a lot of what I did when I look back that helped us succeed, it was almost like I didn't know that it was going to be that, right? I just did it, I don't want to say out of instinct, almost out of fear, like, all right, I'm tired of this problem happening. I got to address this, and I'll give you an example. Early on, we'd have a lot of good, successful events, and then we'd have some that stunk. They weren't that good. And so I thought, all right, I got to figure out why these guys have all this great success and these guys are failing at it. Because the traffic numbers are the same. Mm-hmm. It didn't make any sense. The type of traffic coming in was the same. So I literally went on the road. I started interviewing all the successful people. I'd interview the general manager, the dealers who would see me at the time, even their sales manager, some of their top salespeople. And what I was looking for were things that they had in common. And I identified 7 things. And so what I did was there were things that they did before an event, during an event, and after an event. And I created a guide. And literally we would start prepping our clients ahead of their events because I knew if I could get them to do these things, the chances would go way up. And we didn't have recurring revenue then. We started over every month. So his successful events mattered because it was a lot easier to re-sign those people. And that shot us through the roof. And all of a sudden, 2 things when I look back happened. We started getting a reputation of being more professional because it wasn't about just selling someone and hoping something went well. We cared. But there's a marketing play to that I had no knowledge of. It was a true sales process and a marketing process. So we're calling a week ahead. That's another touch point with our salespeople. And we're working with them to succeed. We're calling during the event to handle any situations, to make sure things are going, getting referrals while they're excited. All right? We're calling the next business day to talk about what didn't go well, and we finish with what they loved. Signing up on the spot, and then getting referrals. That's a true sales process. I didn't know it. And I just thought, oh, it makes sense. We should probably do this. Right? And we had a standards that everybody followed with that. Those were our non-negotiables.
Right.
Right? And, God, it was a sales team. They were machines.
How long were you actively in the business?
20 years.
20 years. So how long have you been out of it?
Officially, 2.
But for real?
Mentally, 10. Yeah.
So you were mentally out 10 years.
Yep.
You officially been out for 2 years.
Yep.
Where in there did you buy 3 stores? You obviously bought one first, right? Or you buy all 3?
I bought the Johnson City Honda
first.
That would have been about 2004, 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you go run it, or you bought it and had somebody run
Had
it?
a managing partner.
Okay.
Managing partner to that.
And then, so you stayed at J&L.
By the way, we're happy clients.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have been great to us too. So you bought it, you got a managing partner, you really never ran it.
Correct.
Okay, then you go out and buy another one.
Correct.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Managing
we
partner.
actually, the second one, we were Honda's first right of refusal. The performance that we did at the first store, the zone manager in the central region reached out to us, and Honda had never done this before, and then said, I have a store. It's already got a contract for it, but we have the right as the OEM. As long as you'll take this contract as is, we'd rather have you as the dealer. We said, we looked at it, made sense. We said, we're in. And so we were their very first
That's great.
action like that.
Okay, so you bought one, bought two, then bought the third.
Correct.
All the same way. You were really, an investor partner.
Correct.
And you have a managing partner.
My original partner, Joe Trujillo, he's over all three, and then we do have general managers at the other two, and then he's the active general manager at the original still as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he runs your dealership business.
Correct.
Your partner there.
Yep.
And then you have general managers there.
Correct.
And then J&L, you left 2 years ago,
Correct.
officially.
Yes.
Still part of your portfolio.
Oh yes, absolutely. So much has happened since this trip. So this is last year. I'm like, all right, I'm enjoying this, but I can't just do an event every 2 weeks for this to pencil and make a lot of money. And I hate starting over from scratch, but I started understanding that what excites me is connecting people. I like when I see people with vision, diverse skills. I love introducing them, connecting them some way, and watching them achieve some type of greatness together. It gives me
That's the ultimate award.
it gives me such a high. And I'm down in Costa Rica. People call it was happening the same time Aaron Rodgers did his thing that everybody made fun of. So I'm down in Costa Rica literally for 2 weeks. My wife, I'll tell you how this happened. I'm doing my podcast, and I had a woman that specialized in working with men. This was her niche, working with men. Her name is Jay Tepley. If you look her up, she's got several books. She'll consult. You got to be a male to do it. But she works with men from 45 to 55 years old. That's her niche. That's her sweet spot.
Barely made it.
That have reached a level where they've been very successful, but it's no longer fulfilling. And so what happens is, like say for J&L, one of the reasons when I say I'm half in, half out, when you're working on something that is no longer what you should be doing, you think it's because you've plateaued at the level of success. So then you start, in my case at least, working harder and harder, just trying to get more successful, higher top line, higher bottom line, and thinking that will fulfill me. And no matter what you achieve, you're like, it actually makes it worse because you're realizing this isn't what I need to be doing right now.
Right.
I've outgrown this.
Yeah, you need to go do something else.
I need to do something else. And so,
and
but I didn't.
Start the fire somewhere else.
I had no idea what it was or how it looked. I went down there for 2 weeks. So I did her on the podcast. She reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I never accept a message that somebody comes out of with a sales message. For some reason, the way she worded it, I read it and I was like, I'm not going to do it, but I want her on the podcast because everyone's like me.
Yeah.
So I think she could help a lot of people. And so bring her on, and I'm interviewing her, and I got done with the interview and I went home, and my wife listened because I streamed it live. I said, something tells me, this is God, I think, working through whatever feelings, right, that I should be working with her. And my wife goes, I listened to it, and I think you should too. And so I started working with her virtually because she lives in London and making progress, liking it, love the direction. But the world distracts me. I'm easily distracted, a short tension span. And she goes, we need 12 days, 13 days, undivided, where we're just nonstop working on you. No more distractions. So I booked us a house. It was just her and I in this house in Costa Rica. My wife let me do this, that was the other selling. That's how you know you can sell.
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe your wife wanted you gone for 2 weeks.
Either way. So I go down there, and I'm going to tell you, there were times I'd call my wife at night and second week, and she'd be asking, all right, so and I said, honey, I've been working on myself all day. I can't talk about it anymore. It was exhausting. A lot of meditating, a lot of talking philosophy, and I started understanding how the universe works. And before people get weird on this, none of it conflicted with my religious beliefs, which was important to me. In fact, it made me look at it differently and opened my eyes a little bit up, and I was like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. I've become, I don't know, you've known me longer than this Costa Rica trip. I would hope that you think I'm probably more spiritual in this last 12 months than I was in the first 2 or 3 years you knew me.
Sure.
So that's been incredible. And so now, and here's how I know for a fact I'm doing what I love. We create our purpose. And the other day, I had someone that was going in one of our virtual, or Me Plus Ultra virtual hot seats. And the only time I meet with them a week ahead, I want to make sure we flush out, is this the ultimate question you really need help with? I get all the background information. So it takes about an hour. And the only time he could meet was like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, which I'm fine with that. But here's where I made the mistake. I'm working all day. I'm like, well, I got this meeting. I'm going to eat an early dinner. So I eat about 5 to 6 o'clock range. So I eat my dinner. And I made the mistake of sitting on that couch. And because I said, it's been a hard day. I'm going to go relax. I got to unwind. So, as an hour goes by, I'm getting tired. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? I don't want to do this damn call. All right? But I get on the call. By the time I got off that call, an hour in, I got off that call so pumped up. And it wasn't even my...
Yeah.
I'm helping him, right? It wasn't my issue.
But I think you get a high in helping people.
And I got off that call and I knew I will never approach a call dreading it again, because look how I feel after. And so now I can approach any call, any sales, anything I'm doing with it. I come at it with such a good spot emotionally and mentally, because I know it's almost like exercising when you're tired. It gives you energy. That's what this does for me.
I know a lot about exercising.
Listen, I do every now and then.
Listen, Scott, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, buddy.
Your success is incredible. Your character, your personality, don't change. Keep doing what you're doing. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. Buddy, thanks for being on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating.